Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Series Gentlemen, episode 8 is underway with these wonderful gentlemen. To my right, Tombstone. Underneath him, yeah, baby, Flap and Smack. And to the left of him, my man, Felix. Everybody say what's up.
What's up?
Morning, everybody.
Hey.
Before we get started, as usual, we're going to get a couple announcements going. But first, what is everybody drinking?
What is that?
I'm drinking some beautiful.
Oh, it's that haze.
Thatcher's Haze.
Oh, Witcher's Haze.
No, that's Thatcher's. It's a cloudy cider.
I'm
Hard
just drinking
cider.
coffee. Just coffee. Oh, he's pouring one for the homies because he ain't got none.
Bad
I
boys,
just
bad
finished it
boys.
like as the intro was playing.
Time to
Feels
get
bad.
some kids, man, because
Sponsored. Oh.
wait a second.
So let's go ahead and get a couple announcements out the way. We're currently still running a FIFA 20 PS4 only tournament. Been really active on the Discord. Brings a different crowd. Brings it a different type of exposure, but it's popping and they're constantly always chatting. We're also going to be hosting Rocket League again coming up this weekend.
3v3.
The 3v3, and there's also a friendly 1v1. And all this can be found on our website for Battlefy, ! Battlefy in the chat will get you straight to our tournaments. And also on July 23rd, the cutoff for the Rainbow Six 5v5 PC only season 1 starts. Hopefully we can get some people to sign up for that because it is a bigger prize pool and it does require an entry fee. So hopefully we can get some people to start signing up. We have to go back to the drawing board on League of Legends. We didn't have enough people to start it. So we're going to have to remarket that, re-sign up. And we might be shifting gears on certain games that we notice aren't as popular on Battlefy. We found out the tournament does have a lot more footprint on games like FIFA, on games like League, apparently, because there's a ton of tournaments on there. And Counter-Strike Global Offensive is something we need to go refocus on so we can find more people to start signing up because Battlefy isn't really good for Counter-Strike. But definitely those are all in the works. We are looking into getting into some more salt, so to speak. Also, don't forget that every Wednesday we also host the Serious Ladies. This Wednesday, I would like to make a change on that this Wednesday, the Serious Ladies will be taking a break. There's going to be a business update coming up this Wednesday. That would be myself, Shuki, and Ramazy coming back and talking about the community, talking about updates, talking about direction, and talking about overview and things of that sort. So stay tuned, and then I'll hand this over to Toom to finish up whatever he needs to say.
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate what Natsu was saying, we are running several different tournaments. In fact, today, hopefully within the next hour, we're going to start the semifinals of the FIFA tournament, the FIFA 20 tournament. So we should have a winner of that by today. They've had a lot of really good communication back and forth on the Discord. It's been really, really good. It's run really smoothly. We still have a couple guys that have dropped out because of time zone differences, but we're working that out, so no big deal. Other things to get out of the way, just make sure that you're in the Discord. Make sure you guys are being active as much as you can. You don't have to be active in the Discord necessarily, but there's tons of events going on, and just it can't be great without you. So please make sure that you guys are doing that. So without elaborating on this too far, episode 8, we've done a little bit of everything over the last 5 or 6 episodes. We've talked about society. We've talked about streaming. We've talked a lot about Flap's hair because he can't stop messing with it. We've talked a lot about how to market yourself. But at the end of the day, Team Series is a gaming community. And today I want to focus almost all of our conversations around the things that bring us together, and that's the games themselves. All right, so we're going to start, and we're gonna kind of go around the horn. I want to talk about the most important thing to you when you pick up a game. What is the most important thing to you? Whether it's replayability, whether it's the storyline, what makes a game great to you? So we'll start with you, Flap, since you obviously look like you have an answer ready.
When do I ever look like I've got an answer ready? Excuse the airplane. It's terrible timing.
He's playing Warzone in the background.
Yeah, absolutely. Most important thing for me would be just immersion. Like if I can forget that I'm in the real world whilst I'm playing a game, I'm good. You know? Yeah. And if I can murder things too, that's pretty cool. That helps me.
He's a run and gun kind of guy. All right, Felix, what's the number one?
I would
most
say
important thing?
the most important aspect of a game is if there's other people to play with. If my friends are playing, that's a huge thing for me. Just because I don't mind grinding games alone, because I've been playing Destiny 2 with Busy like nonstop all week. But definitely having somebody there to enjoy it with is a big factor for me. And then also, like, if it's a grindy game, I mean, Division, Destiny 2, Diablo 3, like, they're all games that you can just, keep going, keep grinding. And as long as you got somebody there to do it with, it's awesome. You can do it all day.
I would say I'm on the same page. First and foremost, for me, it has to be a multiplayer game. Nothing wrong with single player games. But one of the factors that I like to come on and start playing my game is to disconnect from real life troubles, from real life problems. So it has to be a multiplayer game. And at that point, the sky's the limit, because I find that I like a lot of genres and I can play a lot of games, but not everybody likes the games that I have or want to play. So there's that. So settling down on something like Division 2, and getting a full squad of homies, or Destiny 2, getting a full squad of homies there makes it way more enjoyable and not so lonely when you get on there and start playing. Like, one thing that I don't like is just talking to myself, much less listening to my own thoughts when I'm playing single player. I'd rather sit here and listen to Flap tell me crazy things and have a blast and laugh about what he just said. And I'd be like, what does that mean? Most of the time is what I'm asking him. He'll say a word. I'm like, I don't even know what you just said.
I need someone to blame too. Yeah. That's why it has to be multiplayer. Like, dang it, you got me killed.
So you want to go play Battlefield?
Yeah. Never again, dude. I will never touch that game ever again. Although that was probably one of the funnest nights.
That night was a blast. Yeah. So for me, it's the same thing. I really like the immersions. I think immersion is probably my most important, but I really love competition. I don't like hardcore competition, but I want the competition that I can do casually. So, right now Warzone's really big because I can go in there. I don't have to be great at the game, but I can still compete. League of Legends is obviously high on that list because I like the competition. I like getting my adrenaline pumping a little bit because I'm old and can't do that physically anymore. So those are things that I like, I really enjoy about the games. But, to build on that, I kind of want to talk with you guys about, I don't want to talk about games of all time because I think we can kind of go into a tangent there that we may never come out of. But when you turn on your computer right now, what are the 3 games that you are trying to play? What are the 3 games that no matter what happens, you just keep opening them? And for me, like, as soon as my computer comes on right now, there's Pokemon. They're the Pokemon community. Okay, I just can't stop turning that game on. The second is League, as always, and the third is Warzone. So, what 3 games have got your attention right now, and you just can't seem to get away from them?
Shit.
Dark Souls is good.
Timodin, no, man. Come on. Why'd you hate yourself? I haven't managed to play any games in a few weeks, but the one I want to play, obviously Risk of Rain 2. I'm still in love with that game.
Yeah.
God, I don't know. I sit down at the computer. I think, I've got 20 minutes to play a game. What am I going to play? And I sit here and I stare at my desktop and have no idea. It's like I'm really struggling with it at the moment because I need some new damn games.
Just sit there and open the game and close it.
Yeah.
Open.
So you could just answer Steam. Steam is your answer.
Pretty much, yeah. I play the scroll through Steam and see what I want to buy game.
Steam library, Steam store game. Got it.
Yeah. What's in your queue?
Nothing, I don't think.
Well,
you know how like they recommend games like your queue?
Oh, okay. Let me. Popular VR games. I don't have a VR thing.
So VR's in your queue, but you don't have VR. Nice.
Yep. Terraria.
Oh, that's a good one.
San Andreas.
Oh, San Andreas is good.
San Andreas.
VR mains.
Terraria is fantastic.
God, there's loads of shit I've never heard of.
How are you a
Yeah.
Minecraft main, but you don't like Terraria?
Never played it.
Are you not so? He's
Hold
broken.
on, right.
Get him off. Get him off here.
What the
He
hell
is
is that on
broken.
his head?
It's a VR.
Your VR.
Oh shit! Can I borrow it?
Can I borrow it?
I was wondering when he's gonna notice.
I was
Terraria
looking
is
at Steam.
fantastic, man. Terraria is amazing.
You would enjoy
You
Terraria.
would
I
love
literally don't know how you're a Minecraft main. I never played
And not play
Terraria.
Terraria.
I'm currently looking at it.
You
Oh,
would
you
love that's
always
like
got
right up
that.
your alley, my dude. That's like your name written all over it. Like if I were to develop a game that would literally be like next to your name. That'd be your middle name, matter of fact.
Yeah, it'd be
Flap
Sam,
Terraria,
Minecraft,
Terraria.
Terraria, Flap.
I've been looking at that. What were we talking about the other day? Neon Abyss. I keep watching videos on it. It looks fucking good.
I know. So we were talking. So let me give some context to that. Flav and I were talking when we were talking about making a couple marketing videos, and I was like, dude, I found this game and I can't remember what it is, and I was trying to find it on Humble Bundle, and he's like, and then he said the name. I was like, okay, I couldn't even remember. I was like, I think this is the same game. So and he said it, and then I link it, and it ended up being the same game. He's like, dude, this has your name written all over this game.
Absolutely.
It's a side-scrolling. I guess they're called a roguelike.
Yeah.
So like a dungeon crawler.
Oh, cool.
But that's a lot of what Terraria is. It's
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I'm saying it looks good. I haven't said it don't look fucking good. Jesus.
gosh, you suck at this. All right, Felix, what 3 games are you hooked on right now, man?
Destiny 2. I am like obsessed with that game right now. I literally just sent Busy like screenshots of what I'm gonna start looking for again. So I'd say Destiny 2, Modern Warfare, Warzone, I should say, and then Apex. I've been back in the BRs again, and it's all United's fault that I'm playing them because I jumped in that tournament, and we're doing better than I thought we would. So it got me back into it. But I'm just saying, if Fight Night ever gets a remake, I'll be hooked on that game again.
Fight
I started
Night,
playing
good.
that
Fight
on
Night
the
is
side.
good.
Love that
You
shit.
remember Fight Night, the boxing
Yeah.
one?
I definitely
Dude, I
remember it.
hooked up my Xbox and started playing that again. It was cool.
I wouldn't go that far, but
I
It's
remember
a cool game.
playing that game a lot and hooking up 2 controllers and just beating the shit out of one person with the same punch over and over again to see what damage it would do.
Just see what they look like.
see how much it mess up their face.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's pretty much it.
Face breaker.
Yeah.
The story of this Fight Night always had awesome stories, and then also PGA Tour needs a remake.
There was a story?
Yeah, Fight Night had a career. It has the career mode.
EA is releasing a golf game in September.
It's what? Sorry, releasing.
Releasing.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure that EA is releasing their next golf game like September 21st.
That'd be
It's-
awesome. They
they-
need a good one.
Well, they've cut ties with Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. They're just calling it PGA Tour Golf, which I think is a huge step in the right direction for them. They're not focusing on a singular player.
That's awesome.
But as a community, we've really been missing a good, solid golf game.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the only ones that have ever done it right is EA, which sucks because EA's god awful. But they've already got Madden done. They've got other things, so I don't know. I'm looking forward to the golf games. I really enjoy those too. I just want it to be like I have a hard time because golf games are either too hard where I have to play it for 500 hours, or it's too easy and I'm shooting 55 under par.
Oh yeah.
I need you to blend these two together and give me a legit like something I have to grind at to be better, but not something I have to be a professional at.
On that point, then, why have you never won a game of golf with friends?
I win that all the time. What are you talking about?
Fucking bullshit.
It's not my fault you're knocking me off the damn course all the time, you fucker.
Get better then.
I try, but then you guys hit me.
Yeah.
But I have won a couple. Oh,
Have you?
by the way, have you seen it since it's gone full release?
Mm.
You've got to log back in. It looks amazing.
Mm.
Like,
Right. So.
Good.
which we haven't gotten to Natso's answer about the 3 games that he is always looking forward to. So I want to let him do that. But that kind of gives us our next role in discussion because I want to talk a little bit about this. Like there for a little while, early access was kind of the hot shit, right? Everybody wanted to get a game early access, and now
Emphasis on shit.
Now we're starting to see the downside to this, and nobody wants to buy early access. So, Nats, I'll let you finish with the 3 that you're hooked on, but then you can get us started on early access because I know how much you love those games.
Oh, yikesville. So the 3, well, I'd probably say that I have like 4 that I always have installed, and to only name one, I'm a huge Killing Floor. I love Tripwire development. I'm a huge Killing Floor fan, so I'll have Killing Floor 2 always installed. Easy grinder, 6 people grinder. Like I can't stand these 3 or 4 player limitations. And then there's a mod you can actually make the server even bigger. I'll keep that installed, and then I always keep Battle.net games installed. I'm a huge Diablo fan, and I'm a huge StarCraft fan. I love RTS. And then the one that I keep installed also is one MMO, and that's Elder Scrolls Online, because I actually do follow the lore, do follow all that story, and I do like grinding it. It just takes a lot of energy to grind an MMO, and I haven't find like I can do short burst of grinding with like ARPGs like Diablo or looter shooters like Destiny 2 or Borderlands, because they still have that grind feature that Felix was mentioning, something to look forward to. And one of the reasons why I do like Destiny 2 above the Division 2 is at least when you're grinding, you end up with the thing that you're grinding for, versus a Division 2, you rely on RNG, which is trash. So it might be tedious to work for that exotic steps for Destiny 2, but you'll freaking get it 100%. Versus running like the bank mission on Division 100 times and still not getting the weapon you want.
You can do it with 100? I have to do 200.
I don't know how many times I've seen Felix run the same damn mission to no avail.
Man.
I was there.
Like I used to.
Do you not get bored of that though?
Why?
It's the same fucking thing over and over again.
What is Risk of Rain? Are you kidding me?
Different every single damn time.
Oh my god!
It's weird because you do and you don't. Like if you take a step back and be like, I've ran this mission 4,000 times, then yeah, absolutely. But then if you do it as you're doing it, you don't even think about it. Like you're just like, I'm gonna shoot this guy. I'm gonna shoot this guy, and then you kind of like challenge yourself to do it like as quickly as you can because you know where they spawn. So yeah, you do. And now that I look back at it, I'm like, God, I have like 5 million hours played in this game, and now I have nothing to show for it.
To be fair, every game has a repetitive mechanic. Doesn't matter how you look at it. So if you look at the basis, so the biggest thing that any developer will tell you is if you could do something great for 10 minutes and keep people entertained, do that over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
Because that equals to replay value. So going back to what Flap was saying, Risk of Rain 2, you technically doing the same thing over and over. The only thing that changes is the world and how it's fed, right? But you're still doing that same repetitive action. You're still looking for those same items. You're still looking for those buffs, those bonuses, and you're still looking for endgame to try to defeat at X level the dude so you can just finish the game. So you're still doing that repetitive mechanic. Is how you get to that repetitive mechanic. So for us in the Division or any looter shooter in general is achieving that legendary or exotic drop, or that you're actually working towards, but you have something to work towards. Cause like, that's the reason why I don't like BRs. I don't play games anymore like Siege and Counter-Strike. Cause to me, you're really not achieving anything. You're doing the same thing, killing people over and over. You quote unquote get a rank that really doesn't mean anything, right? You get these skins, but the skins don't do anything. Oh, I'm sorry. They add +5 to your, to your gun.
Skins
right?
win games, man.
Yeah. So that's my thing. Like, so at that point you can say that about any game. Like it's Siege, repetitive. Okay, you got the same maps, and then people were like, no, well, technically you can play it this way and do this and do that in the map, and it's not going to be the same, but you're essentially doing the same thing. You're going 5v5. Same thing with Counter-Strike. You're doing the same thing. You're trying to, on Altair's side, you're trying to plant the bomb. The counter-terrorists are trying to defuse it. Is the overall picture is how you get to it that changes, right? But it has that replay value that people look for.
But I mean,
The
even
more
games like
in-depth-
Witcher have the same thing. Go ahead, Felix. I'm sorry.
the more in depth you went into explaining that, the deeper the knife for the Division went in, because it was like it was like, oh no, you can go about doing it this way. Oh, or you could do this. And I'm like, no, Division's the exact same every time.
But I think all of us have that. All of us play games like that. I mean, Risk of Rain, Division, Killing
Yeah.
Floor 2, League of Legends. We all love it. And even though we're sitting here and laughing and we're making fun of ourselves as we do it, we all love that same replay value. We
Yeah.
love playing the same thing over and over again. And like Siege, yes, it's a different game every time you go in because it's 5 different people, but same concept. League's the same way. It will unfold differently, but it's the same game. You're still trying to kill the Nexus at the end of the day. And what's bad about it is that I think if you change one thing of those games, they're not nearly as popular. Like when League introduces another game mode, people scoff at it. They're just like, get that shit out of here, because it's not the original. And we love that originality of the game. And if there was a certain formula that these developers could, follow every time and put out a great game, we'd have stacks of great games around us all the time. But there's not a formula. And when we get together like this and we have a small forum, or we expand it to like QuakeCon where it's a large forum, we start to hear different opinions about what makes a great game. And if the developers would just sit down and listen, I think we'd probably have more of them and better
Way
variants.
too many variables.
Ubisoft, are you listening? Oh, sorry.
We're talking to
Depends
you
who you
guys.
ask. It depends who you ask what makes a great game. Because I know if you ask Zeta Man, all he would say was anime titties.
Okay, but he's still talking immersion, just in different terms, right? Because he wants to be immersed in a storyline. He wants to be immersed in something he can get lost in.
He wants to immerse in those titties.
And it's still a grind for him too. I don't know if you've watched his streams, but they're grindy as hell. Yeah. And sometimes even I'm like, damn, he's grinding this game again. Like, wow. It's awfully impressive. I mean, and that's coming from a Pokemon main, so I'll just shut up.
See, I think endgame is like the big like common denominator is endgame items, because if you think about it, like Diablo, all the looters are going to have that endgame item. But even if you look at like Warzone and Apex, like your endgame is to get to the end of that season pass to get the one item that is exclusive for one season. You know what I mean? So like if a game has a very good carrot in front of you, you will play it over and over and over and over again until you get that carrot.
Reminds me of that commercial with the old guy with the fishing pole and the dollar.
That's exactly, yeah.
Got to be quicker than that.
That was a metaphor for the Division. They're like, new content.
New content. Psych, we broke the game.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's the same for Diablo. I mean, I can't, like, every season, they say, oh, well, we've released this in this season. And here we go, like little ducks back to the pond. And we go in and we swim, finish the season, come back out, forget about the game for a month. Oh, we're coming up on a new season. We all go right back in and do it again. And we're playing the same thing. It doesn't change that
all
much.
greater riffs. And they've been stringing us along for decades.
It's one little carrot. All right, but not to belabor the point. Let's talk a little bit about early access and where you think early access is going, because I know we've talked a lot about early access and hopefully the end of this early access nonsense bullshit that we've been put through for the last 6 years.
So, for those of you that know or don't know how early access even started, it's a way of Steam keeping those developers in-house and stop going outside of Steam to do crowdfunding, kind of like Star Citizen. So they said, how can we develop a program that brings all the attraction, we'll do all the marketing against it using our tool? So they donned it used to be called something, it used to be called Green Light Community or something like before it would change into EA Early Access. So developers would go there, develop a game, find the quote unquote crowdfunding through Steam and get the game developed. That worked better than when they changed to the second formula, and I explain why. In the first formula, they had to meet certain criteria. At the end of the day, they have to have a developed game within a time frame. Well, a lot of these small publishers are like indie release. Sometimes it's like one guy that is developing a full game, couldn't meet those expectations, and then will drop from there because it didn't meet the requirement. Fast forward to early access today, there's no more of that stipulation. You can literally sit and in early access forever because there's no guidelines and stipulations on when you can pull out of early access. With that being said, there's a lot of developers that went in there for an early cash grab only to abandon the game and take that funding and start a whole new game. And it revolved into these perpetual trash games that kept circling around. They kept grabbing funding from here, started a new game, abandoned that one, and they kept doing that over and over and over and over. So that's why I have such a bad taste in my mouth. One of the top games that I do support that I've been in early access the whole time is 7 Days to Die. It has been years. It has been going back and forth, changing the graphics, I don't know, 3 or 4 times now, changing the XP formula a gazillion times. We keep referring back to things that we did way, way, way long time ago and keep adjusting, and they still won't release the game. However, there is a sister company that took that and developed it for the console, which the PC and the console are developed by 2 different companies. They just took the licensing terms and developed for console, and then they pushed it as a full release through console. Now, granted, it's limited. It's kind of like the Minecraft version PC versus the Bedrock version on console, where it's super limited. But they took the idea and said, we're going to, limit it down, but we're going to refine it, but we're actually going to publish it to the consoles as a full release. But PC is still holding on to this never-ending loop of early access. So every time I hear, "Oh, this is an early access," I'll pass. I'll wait till it's out or abandoned, because those are the only 2 things that happens. They go into early access. Here's another one that I supported for a long time. It ended up being trash. Miscreated, DayZ. Those are the 2 games. I love zombie survival. So everybody knows that plays with me. I love zombie survival. Miscreated, trash development in the sense that it was going great. And then they decided, it was like, we've been in early access long enough, a few years, so we're just going to do a full release. They didn't fix anything. They literally just flipped the switch. It was version 1 public. Let's go. Done. Move on to the next one. Same thing with DayZ. That game was so broken. I'm talking about standalone. I'm not talking about mod.
DayZ was awful.
And then they pushed that out to the public, literally the same alpha version of the last release. And they said, 1.0, boom, done. We're off of here. We're moving on to the next project.
No Man's Sky. Thank you, guys. Appreciate all that time.
I'll get off my soapbox. Next.
I got stuck into No Man's Sky. I fell for it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the last one that I really got sucked into, I think 7 Days is the one that's gotten me, because like it was like between Alpha 14 and Alpha 17. It's like those guys, I don't know if they ran out of time, ran out of motivation or what, but it felt like they weren't committed to it again.
Mm.
And since 17 came out, it's like the company, it's a small company, we know that, but it feels like since 17 they've gotten reinvigorated, they've gotten remotivated to fix it. So I'm cool with this one staying in early access, but
I mean, but it's been in early access for 7 years.
Yeah, I mean, but I fell for Scum the same way. Like Scum was awful at the beginning. It got
Was that the prison one?
Yes. Tarkov was the same way for a little while. It was just hot garbage, and they wouldn't fix it. I mean, they've started to do better now, but again, it's all about that cash grab, and I'm with Natsa now. If I see early access on Steam, I just skip over it. I'm not. I have certain things that I look for when I go into Steam. I like Natsa. I love my zombie survivals. I do like, my strategy games in that little realm. This War of Mine is one of my favorite games that I've ever played. They Are Billions is another one. So I like that genre. But whenever I go into there and I see these games that I might like, and then I scroll down and I see early access, it's an easy skip. Hard pass. Thanks. I'll see you guys next time.
I would say my perspective on early access, there's 2 ways to look at it. One is, there's that cash grab aspect of it. And I think it's a crutch that is used by developers. So that way there's no liability. That's the reason I look at it like this, is because if you claim early access and your game is absolutely trash, you can say, well, it's in early access, so we're not done with it yet. But then when things go well, it's like you said, it's a cash grab. Like Fortnite is the king of early access because they're like, okay, this game's early access. So that, so that lets you reap the rewards of having a release game, but then you can hide behind that early access, like, oh well, it's just early access. We're not putting it out yet. So it's just like a big crutch, I think, for development companies. And Fortnite was the first one that really like capitalized on the ability to have early access.
And Termolian stole the thunder that I had that I was leading to. Thanks a ton. There's two opposite sides to this. First off, there are games. Shut up, Vlad. There are games out there that would not have survived without early access programs. And then you have major developers, thanks EA, again, I'm looking at you, who put out games that skip over betas, that skip over everything, and they're just dog shit. So I think you have to have this program. I don't think there's a way around it, but it's really hard for consumers because we spend money and we don't get what we're expecting. Or on the opposite side, we spend a lot of money and then we still don't get what we're expecting. So how are we as a community looking at the development of games, and how are we giving input to these developers to make these games better?
There's got to be like an accountability somehow developed.
And that's what I was getting at. You can hide under the same umbrella and you can go one of two ways. It can either be a success story or you can just abandon it. And there's no repercussion for abandoning it. You can literally take and abandon the project and start another game within that same umbrella, and Steam won't do anything to you because, again, they see it as a way to continue marketing not only Steam, but to continue having these developers come onto Steam to get early access titles in, because they don't want you to go to a crowdfunded site and do things outside of Steam. Like, for instance, you made an example of Fortnite, but Fortnite is an Epic story. It has no relation to Steam. So Steam tries to bring that same, success story from Fortnite. They want to be, why can it be Valve? Why can it be Steam that will have a success story? And then Tremoli named a game that couldn't survive without the initial early access. But however, that's a development team that actually had a goal to say, if we're successful in EA, we're going to be successful in production. And that's the thing. They're like, no, we want to develop a game that eventually gets known and gets produced and gets written reviews against it.
And I think the only way to combat that is, like Busy said, is by putting accountability on the developers by one of two ways. Is Steam needs to step up as a distributor and screen these projects before they allow it on the platform, or two, have a refund accountability. Say, look, if this game gets abandoned within, 400 days, then this community gets their money back. Then that way that company cannot turn around and basically copy and paste the base of the code for the game and then just rename it something else, change the colors of the guys and then switch games. So there's got to be, it's on the distributor 100%.
That's exactly the Ark story. Two games that were exactly cloned from the same code. You were actually able to access its menus from within it. What was it's Ark and
Atlas.
Apex
Atlas.
What?
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. Is took Ark, and I so when I talked to a couple of people, they're like, it's been a few years because I started Ark early access, another one. Yeah, I was complete garbage. That was, I think, gifted to me by David. And we started into it. I was like, it was all over the place. It tried to do too much and it ran like dot crap, right? Fast forward years later, I got to see people starting to replay it, and they're like, dude, like one of my dudes, Grog, I was just talking to him last night. He's like, I'm back on Ark, and me and him were around the same time when we jumped on the game early on, and on the same page that it was just dog crap. And he's like, dude, it's completely changed out. It's optimized. It runs better. He's like, but how long did that take? He's like, and we were having a discussion like that took like 5-6 years. So they release things and hide under the umbrella, produce a published title, and they're like, we'll just patch it later. We'll just release these huge updates later. And that's what keeps happening. And one of the things that when Atlas first dropped, when I think Tremolian gifted it to me, you can literally hit like a certain key and the freaking Ark menu will like literally appear within Atlas.
Pops up. That's crazy.
And that's exactly what I keep saying. Like there's no repercussions to that. Like, oh, we just literally copied the framework over, change some graphics, we're selling you the same game, essentially.
And there's no repercussion for doing
Nope.
that. And that's the problem.
No,
And that's what I was getting at. That's why I have a bad taste of EA. You know what I mean? Like, this is just, it's horrible how there's no checks and balances, really.
And I think that we get to a
Air reveal.
I think that we get to an interesting point there because they put out Ark, and I played Ark for all of 15 minutes. I didn't care for it. It was not to me what it was advertised, right? To me, it was more of when it was advertised, it was more of a Jurassic Park, Jurassic World style game, and I really thought I would enjoy that. And then when it was released, it was far more grindy than I thought, right? So it lost its appeal to me. And I was really big into dinosaurs at the time. I thought it was going to be a cool game, so I bought it, and I didn't care for it. But then when Atlas dropped, I really loved the concept of Atlas because I had just seen what Sea of Thieves did, and I love Sea of Thieves. I love Raft. I love both of them. So I was like, oh, a more realistic Atlas. And then I played Atlas, and it was over the top difficult. So like you would spawn in and you'd be killed by a bee that you couldn't see. I mean, it was there. It was physically in the game, but you couldn't see it because it was moving so damn fast. So you couldn't kill it. You would die. And I know Termolian and we played it for a while, and it was god awful, man. Like I gave up on Atlas 30 minutes in, and I was done. I didn't want to do it anymore.
You played the shit out of Atlas.
Me and Ben started Atlas, and we played for I think about
A good while, because you were telling me about how to do certain things in the game.
But
same.
The dedicated servers where you spawned in and you would die to bees. If you played the actual multiplayer where you both had to be online at the same time, it wasn't half bad. But again, you started on the same starter island, and it just wasn't fun after that. And every game that you play like that, like Raft, I play with Flap, and I played Raft, right? Every time you play a creative game like that where one of you two has to be online, like it falls apart after 15 hours because one of you is always away doing something else. So Atlas it's lost its appeal. I haven't opened it since the day I played it with my brother.
Well, you know, you brought up a perfect example, Toom, is Sea of Thieves. That game is sustainable for short bursts of time because the second you land, and 15 minutes later, like you said, everyone's off doing something else. And that's why I was so excited for Skull and Bones, but that just got pushed back even further because I'm all about the pirate games, man. When I still think to this day that Assassin's Creed Black Flag is one of the best games Ubisoft has ever made. It was the first one to kind of do that adventure, pirate thing. And the second Skull and Bones is out, I'm going to be Skull and Bones main all day.
I played Atlas for 36 hours. I would say about 35 of those were with my brother. 1 hour was with Termolian. Black Flag was good. I did like Black Flag. I love their ability to sail the seas. That was pretty cool.
So going back to Zeta's point, I think he's correct. I think that fan base was too easy on them. They forgave them because a lot of the people that came over to Atlas were Ark mains.
Yeah,
okay.
So going back to that debacle, if it were to happen again, I don't think it would be received the same way. On top of that, let's talk about AAA companies doing this on something that I actually liked and was really hopeful for because I love multiplayer. And then deploy some trash called Fallout 76. And don't come in here and tell me it's better now. I don't want to hear that crap. Do not want to hear that crap.
We're going to get everybody today.
I know.
Bethesda, you are not immune to this.
The last comment somebody told me, oh, you should go back because they added NPCs. I'm like, that's not a reason to go back.
Looking at you, Termolian.
It wasn't Termolian. It was somebody else that I was talking to.
I know.
They're like, oh, you should try Fallout 76 again. I'm like, why? I reinstalled it 3 times. Y'all remember a broken game and they added BR on top of it? That's when I just completely uninstalled it. If I could just delete that I ever purchased that game to begin with and delete my whole account, I would. But I own other Bethesda games within the launcher, So I was like, I'm not gonna give anybody else crap about that. But no, when they say, and I told Tombstone this when we were talking about it, these fools literally said, "You make your own story."
Yeah.
What the heck did you just say to me?
Oh, what am I supposed to do? Make your own story. It's fine.
Make
You
you
do
you
what
make
you
your
want.
own story. So your development was so poor that you want me to imagine my own story
And no goals, just
and
go.
no goals, and it was literally a huge mess. It's a multiplayer session, everybody doing their single player experience. That's all that was.
And lightning bolt. And lightning bolt. And lightning- Sorry, I didn't mean it. Anyway.
Oh man.
That's how bad Fallout 76 really was. I mean, we went to Quake, we went to QuakeCon here in Dallas Fort Worth, and we went there and we spent, dude, how many hours did we spend listening to Bethesda? 4 or 5 hours? Maybe
Overhyping basically trash.
Like the entire community, everybody who was asking questions is like, "Don't you think this game's going to be trash?" Oh, but it's going to be multiplayer. Okay,
It's gonna be
so
multiplayer trash. Where you and your friends can have a horrible time. Enjoy.
But that's the answers they were giving, and I love Bethesda games. Fallout 4, one of my favorite games of all time.
The series is awesome.
I have
Fantastic.
over 800 hours on Fallout 4. I love that game. But
Let
Bethesda,
me just check that claim.
I played mine on the Xbox, dude.
He played on
Okay.
console. Yeah.
I'll allow it.
But
Danny brought up a good point. He said at that point, just play The Sims because there's no end game. There's no nothing. You're just mindlessly doing whatever you want.
basically, that's the way it was. But when we went to QuakeCon, all of the people in the community were asking hard questions. But Bethesda basically just said, "Oh, well, we're still working on it. Well, it's going to have this. It's going to have that." Not at release. It wasn't even close to release. Like, you guys weren't close. And actually, I believe that if we went back and we had Bethesda up there again talking about Fallout 76, they would get absolutely torched. I mean, they would just get destroyed for it.
That falls on the developers too, or the distributors too, because they have deadlines for when they need to do it too. So the thing that I like now, like take Skull and Bones for an example. They want that's a AAA title, like that. They're putting a lot of dollars into that game, and the fact that now they have the option to say, okay, it's not ready. The other one was what's that one that Amazon's putting out? They just delayed it again. It was,
the one that you want to get into.
New World, yeah.
Yes.
So they did the same thing. It was supposed to actually release in September, and they pushed it back, and then they pushed it back another year. And I would rather have that than run into Fallout 76, where they're like, okay, here, AAA title. It's not done, but our distributor needs it out before Christmas. You know what I mean?
But that's where Bethesda actually, and I'll give them credit for being kind of intelligent, because when Fallout 76 first came along, that was the initial question that everybody was asking was, what is Steam going to require you to do? Midway through development, Bethesda said, oh no, we're not sending this to Steam. We're going to release it on our own platform. And they got around all of those requirements that maybe Steam would have had or maybe they wouldn't have had. But basically, they took it all on themselves. They said, we're accountable for this. We're accountable for everything we're doing. And then they just fell flat on their face. And it was awful. I mean, but basically, like, I know Natsu and I, we talked about it. We were like, well, we can't wait for this to come to Steam. And then right at the end of development is when they said, oh, we're going to release it on Bethesda Launcher instead. And we were just like, oh, why are you doing this? It doesn't make sense.
Man, I'm so tired of talking to this. Like, I love that company. It brought a bunch of good games, but from what they're going to now, I don't even recommend them. Like, I rather them. And you're right, Tremoli, a lot of these things are impacted due to COVID. But even then, if you're trying to hurry up and rush this out and then provide us another prime example of what AAA does is market the shit out of games and then deploy trash to production, I'd rather them wait the extra year to get it right, get that beta testing done, get those technical tests done. For, everything that Ubisoft does wrong, one thing I do enjoy is their technical tests, where I get invites. Like, I get invites a technical test, a breakpoint, and you can report bugs and tell them it ran like dog shit. But then when they release it into beta, a lot of those things typically are fixed. Do they still have bugs? Yes, everything's still going to have bugs. But the amount of bugs going into production shouldn't be like 100. It should be like a couple that are known that they need more time that eventually a patch will fix. Not huge content patches. I need y'all to understand that. There's a difference between bug fixes and huge content patches. Not even DLC. I'm talking about like, yeah, we'll fix it later. We'll just deploy a huge content patch. No, those are called DLCs, not freaking not continue developing while you're in production.
But
that makes zero sense.
Dude, you just hit it right on the head. That is the Division's development team's biggest shoot yourself in the foot. They package everything as like the new raid is coming out, and they try and shove as many fixes as they can in one patch, and it causes, whenever you patch something, it's going to take from something else, especially in a looter shooter. Okay, you're going to up the damage on this gun, it's going to have to be balanced somewhere else. And the problem with like the development team doing it that way, instead of utilizing PTS, they just shove as much as they can, and then they're going to go, okay, here you go. And then on the top of it, they go, here's a new raid, or here's a new item that you can get. And so people are like, oh, awesome, new item. And then the rest of the game collapses underneath it.
But that's
Ubisoft
the same
is the worst. They are the biggest offender of that in every Watch Dogs. I've never been more excited for a game, Watch Dogs. And then they put out Watch Dogs 2, which is exactly Saints Row.
Same game. Yep. So Bethesda did a beta test with Fallout 76, not so you and I were a part of it. They put out the beta test, right? And they said, okay, you're going to test it for, a week, and then we're going to take it for 2 weeks, then we'll push out the final product. So they beta tested it. They did not, in my opinion, maybe they did. They didn't change a damn thing from that beta test. It was the same damn product. They took it from point A, beta tested it, said, screw all your opinions, put out the final product.
We're doing it anyway.
You notice I didn't stop him, right? Because he's spitting out facts.
It was, he and I played it, and we played it together. And the beta was like, oh, this, you can still tell they got a long way to go. We're like, oh, they'll have it fixed by release. They didn't even try. They didn't listen to anything. And it was atrocious. But going back to AAA development, look at Warzone and look at Modern Warfare and what we're getting right now.
Their patches are so huge, like
we've got
39 gigabytes.
240 gigs in the game.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Don't worry, we turned that plane down 0.3 decibels.
But you'll be able to hear yourself think when you're in the plane now.
But those skins, though.
Skins win games, man.
Skins for the wins.
But
I watched this clip. It was a clip of Doc and Tim the Tatman playing Warzone, and Doc chose the same skin as Tim, and he's like, Doc, you can't do that, man. You can't have the same skin as me. He's like, this game's too big to have the same skin.
But that's what I'm talking about, Dave, is like, we do have developers who don't do beta tests. And we have developers that put out their own game, and they do put it out fully developed. But then we pay $60 for it, and it still comes out trash, right? Madden doesn't go through a beta test every year. Madden doesn't. But you will, Madden, NHL, NBA, it's the same thing with these guys. They don't develop it. They don't test it. They put it out expecting it to be complete. And then for 2 months, we all bitch about it because it's still broken. And so there has to be a middle ground here. And I think it does come back to accountability, like everything else we've talked about on this podcast for 8 episodes. But we have got to get a better process in place to where consumers get what they are expecting. It doesn't have to be great. They have to get what they're expecting, whatever they're paying for. And that price should be able to fluctuate.
Okay. I have to answer on Termolin's behalf right now that I can agree to that, to the comment about console. However, the reason why you're able to reproduce less problems is that you lock the hardware.
Yep.
Keyword. Same thing with your phones. Why the iPhone runs better with iOS than any Android is because iOS is hardware locked, meaning that might only have one or two different variants within the hardware, so you limit your bugs. So therefore, you have not a big backlog of bugs. That's the difference. So when you lock yourself hardware, and that's what we try to do in the IT field, when we used to deploy the same equipment, the only reason why we would deploy those Dell Latitudes X model is because when we create images against them, we had less trouble to deal with. Any developer will tell you that that's the reason why it's much easier to have a controlled environment where you set the hardware requirements and then you write the code based on that hardware. Super easy. In PC, there's a gazillion variations to everybody's PC hardware. Even with SIs, you buy a pre-built, there's still variations with them, because at one model, even though it's called, like they say, the HP 8000, that has 4 different cheap Chinese variations to their motherboards. So now you change the dynamic when you write Coast against it. So that I want to go ahead and get that out so people understand why certain things run better than others. When you lock the hardware, you can write better code.
But then
and
when
I feel that to add to that is, as a community, I feel the console community is a lot more forgiving than the PC community for lack of knowledge. People who tend to build their own PCs, who look into things, they know more than the console people do. So if you put the same game out with the same problem and you give it to both communities, the PC community is going to have someone that goes, that's the problem. This is why it's shitty. And the console guys are going to be like, oh, just wait for the update. It's cool. So I feel that the knowledge side of the PC community is why you hear so much more complaining about broken games, because there's more people who have more knowledge of what it goes into development of these games. And like the other thing, as far as the, like Natso said, the hardware locking, because take a game like NHL, for example. Now, I love NHL games. I've been playing them since Mike Madonna was on the cover, which is like early 90s. And
leave Madonna
they literally on console, that's why they don't release them on PC, because they literally copy, paste, update, copy, paste, update rosters. And that's why you haven't seen a single change to an NHL game since the beginning. The only thing they update is the physics of the game, meaning like the technology in how that engine works. So that's why, and realistically, there's not much you could update in a hockey game as far as content, because the game itself doesn't change. It's the same rules, it's the same everything, and the only thing they can do is do but they should do a story mode. Tremolian is right about that. Dude, who's Madonna? Bro, get out. I'm not even
Are you talking about Madonna? I love that song.
But it's easier to hide these bugs when you're running 30 frames per second versus when you're trying to push it out at 230. So,
correct. But so going back to the comment of how you pay to either beta test or technical test, because you, like, for instance, Fallout 76, we paid, that pre-order so we can get access. Same thing with Tarkov, right?
Yeah, yes.
The basis of it is because we're doing the testing for them, versus when EA says we're going to deploy a new version of Madden, going back to the copy and paste format, they don't have to crowd test. They can buy a test bed of the same consoles, including their variations. It might be something as simple as a different power supply or something like that. And they can keep it within their own QA team, so they don't have to crowd test. Why do we crowd test in the PC world? Because of the variations. Me and you might have the same CPU, but that's the only thing we have in common. The motherboard's different, the RAM's different, the hard drives are different. Anything is different. So you have a multitude of variations. So we have to do that testing for them, because they're not going to be able to recreate every test bed of every scenario of every, person in this world. So that's why you do these technical tests, so they can pull that information and say, how do we write, a bug fix for this?
Keep going. I love hearing a not so rant. Keep going.
It's just easier. Like, I like being informative. Like, the reason why things happen, we should at least understand, right? Let's have a foundation of how these things work first before we say, how do we get better? How do we move away from this? If in a perfect world you were hardware lock everything, then you're running communism, so to speak. That's why I'm a proponent of the free world. That's why I'm saying that's why I like my Android, because I don't like to dictate what runs on my phone. I want to run it. I want to control it. I want to be able to tell it what it can do. Or same thing why I run Linux boxes, because I don't want Microsoft tracking my every move and telling me what to do, how to update, when to update, when I can just run Linux, close it, and it's super secure and let me do what I need to do on the box on my own time, not being told when to do it, how to do it. Does that make sense? I think we should all bring the control over to the person, not take control away from the person.
Yeah, let me
And
control
I'm
everyone.
with you on that. Go ahead. No, I'm saying I was with you on that, but again, that boils down to the lack of knowledge to the common user, the end user. Like, someone who's use Windows and Linux, it takes a skill set to run Linux. The average person will never be able to do that. And so that's why consoles are so much more successful than PCs, because you don't have to do anything. It's like there's no reason to do anything. You can't do anything.
It's user experience, which is everything.
Exactly. Which
Anything
is
and everything you build.
That's why the iPhone is so successful as well.
It's user experience. Yeah. Their top paid people for web development are usually the UX UI guys, the user experience. How you visit that website. The backend people like me, I was like, I don't give a damn how the website looks. Just tell me what servers I need to call when you click on something. Right? But those people are the same people that are develop the user experience for the Xbox, for the PS4. That's the reason why your UI looks the way it does. What is the simplest way to do X thing is what your question is always going to be, right? When you tell me how do you get in the settings menu, you more likely want to do that no more than 2 or 3 interactions, meaning more than 2 or 3 button presses. If you can clearly see the menu and get into it in one click, they've already reached you. They already got you. Because the less complicated it is, the easier it is to use, the more people are enticed to buy it and use it.
VR.
Trash. Oh.
Oh, was my mic muted? Oh, my bad.
Just put it in Fallout, it'll make it better. But isn't that a lot of why, I know, as a PC community, when they started talking the reveal of the PS5 and the Xbox, they started talking specs and were very interested in it. Whereas the console community is like, I'm just getting an Xbox.
I'm going to get the next one. Yeah.
I'm going to get the next one. I don't care what's in it. I'm going to get the next one. All the PC guys are like, well, what's in it? How's it going to run? How does it going to run compared to my PC? And the console guys are like, just give me it. I don't care what it is.
Yeah. I need to buy that new router. I mean,
I'm not by any means talking down to the console community, because that's not what I do. And it's normally more, it used to be, I'm not saying it is anymore. It used to be more economical, to buy an Xbox and just run with it. Now you can do the same thing and you can just build a PC for the same price about. So, but it's almost being naive, but it's also just, I don't care what's in it. It's almost negligence on their part to not know what's going into it. They're just like, oh, what's the price? I'll pay it. And it's to me now, as I've been enlightened, especially spending a lot of time with Natsu and learning more about hardware, it's almost insulting that their negligence is, I just don't care. And
well, the other fault is it's a distribution bottleneck again, because in order for the companies, they could put the 2080 into a console or, whatever, but then no one's going to want to buy it. No one's going to pay, $4,000 or $2,000 for an Xbox. So at what can they put in that's decent to still justify this price cap that they have? So they're again, it's user experience. They're capped on what someone is willing to spend on an Xbox, because like you said, if my Xbox costs $1,200 and a top of the line gaming rig is $1,500, some people will just say, okay, I'll just buy a PC because it's going to be better. It's going to last longer. And again, it comes down to knowledge. I know that with my PC, I can just upgrade the graphics card and the thing is relevant again, or I can upgrade my processor and it's relevant again for 5 years, versus I got to wait for the next console to come out. And they're just capped by price. I think that's what really holds the console community back.
But it's our responsibility as the PC community, not actually appointed our responsibility, but we're taking responsibility to make sure these guys are not getting ripped off, because Microsoft could go in there and put in subpar quality parts into this Xbox. And again, because of their negligence or their lack of care, they could just spend the money anyway. But we're the ones, not me in particular, but people like Not So You who know what's going on. You'd be the ones who are waving the bullshit flag saying, hey, that's way overpriced. What are you doing?
So going back to what Shook is saying and what I keep referring back to, not only user experience, but it's brand loyalty. A lot of the things that you do, and this is included in the PC world, how can I lock them to my platform, right? You invest into Sony and you have a digital library with Sony. It's harder to go, well, now I need to jump ship and go get an Xbox, but that library doesn't transfer over. So a lot of the things is also not only locking you down to that specific platform, but it's also building brand loyalty. Some people only buy iPhones because that's all they like, because of the user experience, because they trust Apple, you name it. Same thing with the reason why I only buy Samsung, right? But at the end of the day, I think as console gamers don't really care as much, to going back kind of what Tombstone is saying, they don't really care as much because at the end of the day, the user experience is plug and play, right? So they're like, the only question they're typically asking is, because, you know, just like anybody else, you have trouble, you have, you know, real life problems, and like the last thing you want to do is install a patch or install a graphics driver that ends up crashing your game, you know, things of that sort. They're like, I just want to plug it in, you know, turn it on and play my game. And that's where console is getting it right, because they're able to lock that platform down and have internal QA against it. The reason why I will give them credit, because that's a dream. That's an IT dream. I don't have to support 1 million devices. I only have 3 variations of one device and I can write code against it. That's a developer's dream.
Absolutely.
So less heartaches, better user experience, build brand loyalty, and then remarket those, that same thing. And some people might not even care about the actual specs. I care about the specs because that's what I do. I'm an enthusiast. I like to know what's in what I'm going and how my upgrade path. That I've also been on PC forever. It's very flexible platform, and my Steam library I cannot replicate anywhere in any console.
And I think as time goes on, touching on what Shuki said about, you know, investigating their fans, like the noose gets tightened every year on locking these people in on the console, because the biggest thing that you'll hear, no matter what new console is coming out, the first thing that people say is backwards compatibility. How far back in my library can I go? Are you going to allow me to go? So like with PS5, they announced that all PlayStation games are now going to be backwards compatible on the PS5 via the cloud. So now, even if you've had an Xbox and you've had a PlayStation, you're going to lean more towards the PS5, because now you can say, wow, look, I can go back and play my original PlayStation games, and Xbox is only letting me go back to 360. So, you know, that's another way of them just tightening that noose on brand, on sticking with your brand. And as time goes on, they're going to keep doing that. Because right now, if you look at the battle between the new Xbox and the new PlayStation, it's all storage and it's all graphics cards. And so right now it's like the spec, people are starting to catch on saying, look, oh, they're using this, AMD, you know what I mean? So it's slowly getting better towards people being more knowledgeable about what's going in on them. And now that they're doing those like conferences saying what's in them, I think that's going to start swaying people and getting people to be like, I wonder what's in there. Samsung. I'm jealous. Okay. This is me. I'm on the iPhone. I'm jealous because I want a Samsung, but Apple's got me locked down, man. They're like computer, your watch, your everything. I can't switch, man. I'm past the point of switching.
So one of the things that I was going to say, major shout out to AMD for basically owning all of console. Because yes, even between the Xbox and the PS5 or whatever they're called, it's literally Ryzen running the architecture behind both of them. So it's a slight variation of what they wanted to pay for licensing and kind of log down and have AMD kind of rebrand certain things. That's why this talk about, oh, it's a fast SSD. I was like, that doesn't even freaking matter. if the memory bandwidth isn't even there to capture that, it doesn't matter how fast your SSD is. True case in point, there's tons of review Linus Tech Tips that are great blind test on NVMe drives. The things that they're freaking on PC right now, PCIe 4, that people couldn't even tell the difference because there is a throughput, a threshold, and then a throttle, where people wouldn't even notice the speed difference. It's how fast you can load it into memory. Anyway, that's all technical talk. But I am on the same point. But going back to Termolian's point, I think that exclusives is what locks you down in a platform. I think that's one of the biggest driving factors for you saying on PS for life, because your exclusives are locked down to that platform. It's the only reason why I had to get a Nintendo Switch, because all them Zelda's locked down to Nintendo.
Yeah.
You can't play that even if you emulate. You're going to emulate all the old stuff. But if you want to play the up and coming Zeldas or the Metroids or the Marios of this world, you're going to have to pick up that piece of hardware and buy it from them. That's the only reason why I own a Switch, because of titles like Super Smash Brothers, right? Things that you can't get anywhere outside that platform.
But that's why
right.
I think that PlayStation, Sony in general, a game will come out and it's exclusive to them for like the first 9 months, a year maybe. But like they just released gosh, now I can't remember the name.
Death Stranding.
That's another one that they released, but they release them all coming to Steam anyway. So I mean, to a point, you have a exclusive will get you for a while, but boy, PC players are really, the community as a whole is pushing to blur these lines of exclusives, and with every time they release another one that's not exclusive, boy, they are shooting themselves in the foot.
And haven't Xbox just dropped exclusives?
Yes, I think they said they wouldn't have an exclusive on the new Xbox.
But we got Halo 3
right?
out again.
So one of the questions that was asked is, what are your thoughts on Stadia?
Shit.
Okay.
Pointless. I can
Okay.
barely run this bloody stream. I can't stream a game through something. It's nothing. I don't understand.
Okay. So you don't understand. Okay, got it. Next.
I'm with him. I don't understand.
Okay.
I don't see the lore.
See, and this is the problem. This is why I like these conversations. If you don't understand it, let's get to the drawing board. Let's get to a whiteboard. Let me
I'm gonna
explain
need
it.
to go there. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. This is why I like these talks,
Not everyone
because
has the right internet.
from my standpoint, and you're right, Flap, if you have trash internet, it's not for you. It's not even in your scope, because it's heavily reliant. So I think it's a bright idea. I think it's a great idea, but how you put it in play is what's going to matter the most. So say, for instance, let's draw a scenario how this will work. Say you have a potato laptop. Say you only have a laptop and it's a couple years old. One of the things that Stadia does is, if you have the internet bandwidth, we will do all the hardware trouble for you. Essentially, they have servers are rigged up, Titan XPs or Titan video cards, 2080 Ti's in arrays. I'm talking about server stacks full of these guys. Some of the servers have like 20 video cards in them by themselves. So what they're saying, it's a streaming service that takes all that processing, so you don't have to do it. So you don't have to continue upgrading your computer. So they'll say, we take care of the hardware aspect of it. We're going to provide you a device that essentially, think about like a Roku or think about like a console. But its only thing to do is to pick up that signal and display it on your phone, display it on your TV, display it on a laptop. So all you do is grab a controller and play the game. You don't have to worry about, do I have the latest video card to run this AAA at 4K? You will need the internet speed. So that's one way that it's going. So you don't have to worry about upgrading, but you can still play those AAA PC titles. So they have huge data centers dedicated to taking all that hardware troubles, putting a UI against it, and you all literally doing is loading up the next, Division or the next whatever game you want to put in here. So you don't have to worry about spending the thousands of dollars to upgrade your rig to play a game.
Do you remember On Live?
Yes.
Yeah. What's happened to that? Didn't fucking work.
And how do you innovate? So how do you innovate? How do you
Yeah,
take an
yeah.
idea? How do you think the first iPhone was trash? Yet here we are in reiteration 11. We've gotten better. So you're locking yourself down to one concept. You don't
The
have trash
idea
internet.
right? But the there we go. I'll shut you up finally. Not everyone has good enough internet. Yeah.
Well, you already excluded yourself because you don't have good internet.
Exactly. Not everyone has. The internet.
So we're talking about just you, is what you're saying.
Not just
So let's get back to me. Let's get back to
people
me.
have shit internet. More people in the world have shit internet than have good internet.
It still doesn't take that it's an innovative idea.
Should have won in
I've said it was
1776.
Just because you can't use it, the people that can use it, like myself, it makes sense on the back end, not having to spend every so often to get that quote unquote the new latest video card to run whatever. They take that processing power
Is it
and let you
popular?
play it. What's that?
Is it popular?
Yeah.
No, it's not fucking popular.
What
Not
is
to
your
you.
definition of
Again,
popular?
you're excluding yourself. And at the same time, I'm not going to talk to you with your 4G hotspot. Okay. Moving on the conversation.
Right. I'm using
Has he gotten the 4G yet? It's on 3.
Oh god.
The lamest
So-
argument I've ever heard.
With knowing that about that, the reason why I don't like that is two reasons. One is that kind of hardware locks you in a sense that it's going to be built on for what they can handle. These data centers, it's only going to be feasible for what they can handle. And then two is it's going to drive the cost way up on enthusiasts like Busy and myself that I enjoy going out and buying a new card. I enjoy working on this thing and upgrading it. And if you've got a data center that buys 60,000 cards, my card is going to cost me, I can't find it. You run into that problem with the Bitcoin miners. When the Bitcoin miners started buying all the graphics cards, you know how expensive and how you could not find a graphics card at all? So you're going to run into that on a larger scale because they're going to need multiple of these locations that are doing this processing power to meet demand. So that's why I don't like the idea, because again, if they get bottlenecked, meaning your local data center gets bottlenecked, then oh no, we're not going to be able to support everyone playing Grand Theft Auto 6 because we don't have the processing power to have everyone play at the same time.
Yeah, and I'm on that same point. So my other kind of rebuttal to that is, do you buy movies? Like, do you buy Blu-ray movies? Any
No.
physical media? Okay.
Not
Oh,
anymore.
God.
So Netflix, name any streaming service here, takes that same concept for your movies. They still need processing power. It still runs on a data center. They still need cloud power. It does take CPU to transcode and encode. It's that same concept, but in video games. So,
See, in the concept,
so
is-
why does Blu-ray still exist? Because then you say, well, not everybody has internet, right?
Well, see, and I'm with you on that. But the difference between a movie and a game is there's no moving parts. So a movie, it's a fixed set, a media file, and that's streamed. So they can have the hot movie having one file. But the problem with games is there's factors, there's updates, there's DLC that happen at different times. So there's two-way talking in a game, and decision making and cloud saving, meaning like I'm further in this game than you are, Busy. So my file is going to have sub files in it that's saved. As for Netflix, where it's just a movie, it's going to just be one file streamed one way.
And that's exactly where they're taking that concept and synchronize it with the device that's at your house for the input and output.
Also,
I think it's a fantastic, innovative idea.
that is
It's,
an amazing idea.
it's ran on GCP. I'm a huge GCP fan, Google Cloud Platform. I think it's super innovating because it takes a lot of those people that do have the good internet and gives them the ability to pay a streaming service like you do Netflix, be able to play those games, which otherwise wouldn't be affordable if they had to go get that $2,000 rig. I'm not saying that it's all like
It's not perfect.
thought
yet.
out. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
NVIDIA is running the same service.
Yeah.
But we have
Yeah.
been killing companies. At the beginning of this podcast, we were killing companies for not being innovative. Now we've got a company that is being innovative, and we have an opposition to it. We need more innovation. We need more people to try things that are outside of the box. We need this in order for the gaming community to improve. You have to continue to innovate. It may fall flat. It may suck terribly, but I'm glad they're trying. I'm glad NVIDIA is doing what they're doing. I'm glad these companies are pushing the limits of technology, because all that means to me is a better end user experience.
See, and I like the idea.
The idea is great, but how do we play it in concept, and how do we improve upon it? And why do I'm a huge proponent of innovation? Why lock ourselves to one standard only?
I want Microsoft and Sony to keep pushing each other up the chain, because all that's going to do is improve my PC. I want these companies. Competition breeds greatness, and it's going to keep doing it. So when you come up with this idea, it may seem off the wall. Try it anyway. Go for it, because all that's going to do is it's going to make my experience better. And as Sony and Microsoft continue to push themselves, it's just going to make the end experience better. So I like the innovation. I like trying new things. I just want them to complete it. Give me the full experience, because if they stop midway through the experience, I'm not getting what I'm expecting. And we don't know if it's going to work if they don't complete the damn project. Finish the project. It's what we've been saying since the beginning. All day long, we've said, finish what you start, because at the end of the day, I need to see the full experience. I need to experience it in order to know if I like it or not, or if it works.
And my biggest thing is I hate this whole we've always done it this way, we should continue doing it that way. I hate locking myself down to like that. And you're right, Tremolin. A lot of the big argument is people like owning instead of renting, but we do that every day with Netflix and Hulu and name any streaming service.
And I like the fact that eliminates the fact that you need to own something in order to do it. I mean, it's basically they took the Blockbuster business model of renting and they made it digital, which made the user experience better. Now, if you combine what Twisted said and what Busy said, so Twisted said, we were talking about that two-way communication, is games consistently change depend on what choices are being made and characters and all that good stuff. But what you said, Busy, if you take that concept with what you said, the individual device, call it a Roku box, okay? You got a Roku box and everything. That's like your cloud memory card. Remember PlayStation? You had to insert your memory card. I could take mine out and put Toombs in, and his character would load up. So each little Roku box, whatever, is that terminal ID. So that's all that information for this person is stored locally. And when you access the cloud, it just plugs in your information for your game progress. So that would eliminate that what you and I talked about, two-way communication, is when you log in, it would send your credentials and return with the answer of here's your game and your character. So that's amazing. That would streamline so much. But the only thing is, for enthusiasts, like I said, if I want to upgrade my rig, now the cost of everything is skyrocketed because there's way more demand for it.
And I know you keep bringing up enthusiasts, but we make so small of a percentage.
Oh yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Overall, like we make 1% of 1%.
Yeah,
as an enthusiast,
I don't even think it's that much.
Yeah, and people want to. That's the reason why pre-built still exist. People don't want to care about assembling a computer, buying individual parts, putting it all together. Why do you think there's the main money makers to anything PC are these big companies like Dell, HP, Lenovo that provide already a pre-built machine that you can say, here you go. All you have to do is turn it on.
But they don't want the responsibility of messing it up.
Yeah, that was my biggest deterrent when building a PC for the first time was I'm going to put fucking thermal paste on here and it's going to blow up my computer. Or when liquid cooling, I'm going to mess this up and then I'm going to explode, water into my rig.
Flap, I think you might be muted.
Yes, I was. That was part of the intrigue for me, because I thought, if I fuck this up, this is all this money gone. So I got the adrenaline going a little bit when I built mine.
Hands start shaking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I think that's why. I think that goes back to your point about why people like their consoles the way that they do. They're plug and play. It's easy. They don't have to do research. They don't have to do anything. They can. It's blissful ignorance. I mean, it's easy.
And that's exactly what a lot of people want. Is the last thing they want to do is fiddle with something or other. They just want to plug it in and pick up their controller. I mean, I don't know how many times console players have come to my stream and said that. I just like the fact that I pick up a controller and I'm ready to play.
So, I don't have to build PCs. I've got Natsu. I go down there with some beer, some whiskey. But that's why I'm willing to do it, right? Otherwise I wouldn't have built it, right? If he wasn't there, because he's an expert. I work really hard for my money. I spend a lot of time in a classroom working for that, and I don't want to screw it up the first time I plug it in. Like I know people recently who've done that, who bought a PC, bought really good spec PCs, and completely fucked up the installation. So I don't want to be that guy. I'm kind of between both. The reason I love my console is because I worked hard and I didn't want to screw it up and I wanted to be lazy. So I just bought my Xbox. But now I have friends and I've networked enough to where I don't have to have that problem. And so now I'm willing to spend money. I'm willing to invest in a better experience. So hats off to Natsu, because he built my PC, but that's kind of what life's about, is finding that way to blend it and get the best out of it. So I'm good with it.
Touching on what Shuki said, I'm with you. They want the feedback for the game, but the only problem is they don't ever finish the game. They abandon the project most of the time.
They've got to finish the project.
Yeah. You can get all the feedback in the world, but then two things happen. Fallout 76 happened where they're just like, okay. And then number two is they don't have the drive or the means to finish or implement the feedback from the community. The Division just completely just goes like this, la, 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 on every single thing that you try and tell them to fix. I had direct, this is on record. Okay, this is on record. I had direct dev access to one of the devs on the Division, and I would literally send him suggestions. It would say red, and then that was it. There's no two-way communication about
it. We're back to one-way communication.
Yeah. I need a memory card, bro.
Well,
so, go ahead.
So when you're talking about developers and the way that they develop games, you have Division, who are, again, blissful ignorance, right? But then you have Riot, and I'm a huge Riot fan.
Riot is amazing.
To a point, they are. I love Riot. I'm a huge League of Legends fan. I think Valorant is on its way up. I think Valorant's going to surpass everything we've seen. It just needs a little more time. But Riot, they have two different goals in mind. They have their community, and then they have their professional esports scene. So when the community's over here bitching up a storm like, hey, this champion's broken, fix this champion, fix this champion, fix it. Riot's like, I'm not going to touch it. I can't hear you, la, 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 I've got my blinders on, because the esports scene is making them millions and millions and millions of dollars. Whereas the community is bringing in a tenth of that, and we're like, now I have two different goals in mind. So the community's bashing the shit out of Riot, and Riot's okay with it. But when you like Natsu said, when you go to bash something or you go to give an opinion on it, you have to understand how it works first, because Riot cares about their community. Riot's one of the best developers out there, hands down. I think all of us can agree to that. But their goal is to put out an esports organization that is revolutionizing the world. And that's exactly what they've done. For 10 years running, they've had an esports program, and that's far beyond anything we've seen. So when I'm bashing Riot, I'm bashing it from the community side, and then I'm thanking them from the esports side. So it's got to be both, and it's tough. It's definitely a tough place for these guys.
I think the day that we stop innovating, I think we've all lost. I also think that there's a time and a place for everything, and while it's far-fetched for somebody to comprehend or understand, or even begin to say that this is any way, shape, or form outside of a good idea, I honestly think that it might be deployed in the wrong era, and the wrong people are marketing against it. Because certain innovations have been done that, like, say you started in the 80s, it didn't take off at all, but then somebody brought it back in the 90s and it took off. because that generation saw that it could, move and do things with it. And sometimes some of these things that are going through trials right now in technology world, period, you'll see that this device takes off, but the competitor to it that almost did the same thing before was a Microsoft failed product, didn't take off, but then this third party company came and literally redid it, and all of a sudden it takes off.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of want to go back to what Shook said, because he kind of asked a follow-on question there. He asked how a company like that keeps everyone happy when they're balancing so many things, and Twisted probably answered it better than I can. They're not afraid to go ask their community what to fix. They'll go ask their community, what do you want us to do next? So this last season, Riot is now facing a problem with their champions because they're trying to bring new champions to the game, but they have champions that were built when the game first started that need updating, serious updating. And so they've already said, we're going to continue to create new champions. But what they did is they asked the community, they said, here's 10 champions. Which one do you want us to finish first? And as soon as the community voted, it was finished. 6 weeks later, they had a new champion rework. They had new graphics, new everything, and new visual effects. They committed to their community. So you do it by caring. And I know that's a cop-out on my part, but the way you do it is by caring. You give a damn about your community. Fallout 76 Bethesda in general did not care what we wanted. They cared about what they wanted, and they pushed that agenda, and they failed miserably. They pushed this multiplayer online platform that was going to revolutionize the world. They wanted to be World of Warcraft while being Fallout, and they couldn't do it. And if they would have sat back at that QuakeCon and they would have listened to the community say, we don't want that, they would have done a lot better. So care about what the hell your community wants. Division, same thing. Like, your community screaming at you to fix it. Fix it the way they want to. It's possible. You just have to care.
I think in Division's case, it's a matter of time to put into it, because the biggest thing the Division community is complaining about is PvP and balance. And in order to do that, they basically have to look at the game from its skeleton and start from there. And I think that they're just too far into it, and they don't want to do that.
It comes down to goals again. I mean,
yeah.
Goals are everything. Maybe Division doesn't want to be that revolutionary game. So
that's good stuff right here. I think we need probably a part 2 to this at not immediate future, but maybe some other time we'll revisit.
I have not finished yelling yet.
Is that why you were on mute? Were you still yelling that whole time? Well,
he took a picture of himself and just left it there, and he was really in the background screaming.
This is the flap that I like. He'll now go research and come back with a rebuttal, which is the reason why I like the conversation to continue, because we need to see all venues of one argument, not just the ones that you feel should go. I'm all about innovation, leading the world. How did any idea come into flourishing, and how did it take off? When Netflix first started as a streaming service, you know how many people hated that? And look where it is now.
Hollywood Video and Blockbuster were like, no.
So we're going to go ahead, and we're at an hour and 30 plus at this moment. And I want to give people their time back. I appreciate y'all being here. So we're going to start the outro. We're going to lead it with Tombstone and find his final thoughts. And I know Felix has things to do, so give him back his time.
Yeah, just final thoughts really quick. I've said this a lot in recent time, is make sure you guys are being active in whatever community you're in. I don't care if it's Team Serious, UV, if you're over with Shade, I don't care. Be active in the communities. Try to give back. If you have the time, obviously. If you don't, then I get it. I understand. But we can't make these communities great without your input. You know, I love the fact that UV shows up for Team Serious to support us. I love that Team Serious shows up for UV to support. That's how these things grow. You know, we all have the same goals in mind, is to make changes to the world. And the way we do that is by being active and interactive and communicating. So come on, Thermolian, get your ass on here. Well, we'd love to have you.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Right? So big thing for me is you can find me over on Team Serious. I just took over as tournament director for these guys. I'm running the FIFA tournaments and some Rocket League stuff as well. You can find me over at UV. I'm trying to change a little bit of what's going on there, but I love the fact that UV is growing the way that they are. Also, you can find me. I've been streaming a little more. XX or Twitch. XX Tombstone XX. You got it. That's all you need. And then I'm on Twitter every once in a while talking about the two teams and how we're trying to change the future for everybody.
Well, let me say, I am happy to have Tombstone back streaming again because I need some laughs, man. And that whatever game that was you were playing yesterday was hilarious.
Fuck Deadlight. Fuck that.
Dude, he's like, all I gotta do is turn the generator off, and it was awesome. Awesome. So good to have you back, man. I love having you back, and I'm excited to see what you're going to accomplish with Team Serious on the tournament side. So I'm excited to throw a ton of ideas at you and see what sticks as far as that goes. And so thanks for Team Serious for having me on here. I love every time I'm on here and the opportunity to even be on here and talk with you gentlemen. You guys are good people. You can find me on YouTube exclusively. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, thanks for having me, man. I don't know. I'm out.
Partner. Wait, what?
Not yet. Don't you put that evil on me, Tombstone.
In about 30 seconds, you better find me in the toilet because I really need to piss. But other than that, you can find me on Twitter at Flap and Smack.
Good. I can track it now. A checkbox Flap when needs to piss at a certain amount of time. Got it. Today's date, signed, approved. Anything and everything we've ever discussed here, you can find at teamseriesdfw.com/podcast. We are hosted on Podbean. Get the app, download it, go back, write some notes, come back with rebuttals because that's what we love to do. We like to keep it entertaining, one, and two, we like to keep it constructive. We like to hear everybody's viewpoints, and then go ahead and put that and publicize that on the internet. With that being said, anything and everything we host on, we're going to be changing a little tactics on certain games. We're Battlefy in the chat will take you to our current tournament postings. I know we're doing Siege and Rocket League coming up. There's also a PS4 FIFA tournament going on, but that's hosted on Tournament. And we're more than likely going to be doing Counter-Strike Global Offensive on Tournament. And we're talking about shifting gears for League as well to be hosting it on tournament.com. With that being said, I'm going to give these gentlemen their time back and thank them so much for everybody being here. Also, the moderators and administrators always taking the forefront, taking that step and making everything possible and everything happen. Major shout out for our sponsor for today, !Gamer Grind in the chat. Get your coffee on a coupon discounted using Team Serious. Actually, it's TSDFW at checkout. Not only will you be putting it back into our community to be able to bring things like these podcasts and these tournaments, but you also can enjoy a really good cup of joe. My favorite one is Killstreak and Checkpoint. Check those out when you have a chance. Aside from that, thank you very much. And always stay serious. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Stadia sucks.